Hey everyone. I was trying to set up my shot the other way so that you could see the beautiful Newcastle Harbour in the background, but the lighting wasn't great, and so I've turned it around. So just to give you a bit of a context, I'm down at Honeysuckle at the forefront. For any of you that know Newcastle, you'll probably even recognise the seat that I'm sitting in and the cafe that I'm at. But this morning, it's a little bit earlier than usual for our conversations from Being More Human. If you haven't met me before and I haven't met you before, my name's Michelle Crawford and I run a business called Being More Human with a whole bunch of very talented humans, and our focus is working with teams and individuals and organisations to build their human potential and to help ourselves and others become everything that we can be. And that's a pretty exciting thing to do, and we do it in a big variety of ways. The focus that we have for this particular month, so we have a theme each month that we go through. So earlier on this year, our theme was in growth, and this particular month that we've just started, our theme is on leadership. And leadership is such a big, juicy topic that it's probably one of the topics that's more written about than any other topic ever. Morning, Mel. How are you? Come and have a coffee with me. It's probably more written about than nearly any other topic. And there's so many different ways that we can discuss it. There's so many different opinions about it. And there's an awful lot of experience that we all have in and around leadership. Whether we're talking about leading ourselves or leading our teams or leading other people, all of those things matter. But the interesting thing, and this will connect to you, Mel, the message from this morning, because what I wanted to share with you is a really useful research study that's been done down at Macquarie Uni in Sydney. And what they did is they decided that they would look through this whole raft of data and information to determine what was the single most important leadership behaviour. So just to give you a little context, they weren't looking at sort of half-assed leaders or average kind of leaders. They were looking for people who were considered to be exceptional leaders. And the study was done across Australia and Asia, and they went through a shortlisting process, and they ended up with a data size of 200, and I don't exactly know the details, 250, around that sort of size. And then what they did is they asked those 250 leaders to go through a process of recording everything that they did every day for a whole month. And so what they did is that they had to record in 15-minute increments exactly what particular behaviour that they were using and implementing every 15 minutes. So you can imagine that's an awful lot of data if you times that by 250 people. Again, the context is exceptional leaders, not kind of average leaders, right? So we already know from this sample size that we're going to get information that is important and potentially going to influence the choices that we make as leaders. Yeah, wowzers, exactly. That's an awful lot of data. I'm glad I wasn't the one to sift through it. But what they found is some really, really interesting sort of information. And if you think about it intuitively, I would expect, and certainly when I have this conversation in a live way with people who can respond, so anyone who's listening now, have a guess, except Nikki, I think you know the answer, have a guess what you think the study showed was the most important behaviour done on a daily basis by these leaders. And if you can have a guess and pop it in the comments. So it would be kind of normal to guess leadership-y type things, right? Like you have to model your behaviour or demonstrate your behaviour and understand that other people are going to replicate that. That would be a reasonable guess. You could guess something like self-reflection is a really important piece of being an exceptional leader. There's so many things that we could guess, but when they crunched feedback, that's right, yeah, so you could guess that feedback is really important. To me, what's so fascinating about this is when they crunch all the data about exceptional leadership, it's actually nothing to do with what you do for other people. And to me, that's the corker. And so in this study of exceptional leadership, it turns up that the most important two habits are actually nothing to do with others, nothing to do with leading your team or your organisation. They're all about leading yourself. And if you think about that, the idea of having to own everything that we do and every part of who we are as leaders gives you a little bit of a hint. And I know I'm kind of teasing you, but it's fun to do. The thing that came out as the single most important leadership behaviour was daily exercise. And to me, I was astounded when I heard that. So daily exercise is the best way to check in with yourself about whether you're in the kind of half-assed leader kind of bunch or whether you're in the exceptional leadership bunch. Then you get to ask all those other questions that we're talking about in and around kindness, feedback, openness to change, etc. There's so many other juicy parts to what it is to being a leader, but the one at the top is daily exercise. And yeah, exactly, Mel, that's what I thought you would be interested in your challenge that you're doing at the moment. And for those that haven't seen the live streams that Mel Histon's been doing with Lisa Mills, with the challenges, and I think Michelle Faithful's in your group and a couple of other people doing the challenge through Genesis, they're worth having a look at, and certainly the change process is worth looking at as well. So the other reason, though, that I love this idea that the single most important behaviour to be an exceptional leader is daily exercise is because it's not dependent on anybody else. It's not, I can't ring my friend and say, can you go do my daily exercise for me, please? Because I want to delegate that to you. Like, I'm the world's best delegator, but I can't delegate doing my daily exercise, even if I want to. And trust me when I tell you, I would want to if I could. And so I think the thing that's really interesting from a leadership point of view is it's something that you have to do for yourself, something that you own, something that you can't delegate, and that's the single most important thing. Any guesses for those who are watching what came second after daily exercise? So if you think you can have a stab in the dark at what you think in this research study was the second most important behaviour after daily exercise, then put a comment in the comments box. For those of you that have just jumped on and just started watching the live stream, I'm talking about a piece of research that was done through Macquarie University, and they were looking at a sample population between Asian and Australian leaders, and they were looking at, out of all of the different daily behaviours that we do, what's the upshot? What's the one that's the single most important? So we've discussed that one, which is about exercise. The second one, it wasn't meditation, but it's very close to that. So if you think about the process that you're going through very often in a meditative state, the one that came up second was about planning and reflecting. And so it's interesting because sometimes this idea of planning and reflecting could be separate to meditation, it could be separate to exercise. But what they also looked at is that many people who are considered to be exceptional leaders, they can kill, both of those birds with one stone, so to speak. So you might see someone who's goes for their regular morning walk or run or whatever it might be, go to the gym, and in that process, they're actively, very proactively thinking about the day that they have ahead and what's required of them and how they need to show up as a leader for each of those things that they have leading ahead of them. So I just wanted to open our conversation with you for this month on leadership. We will be exploring leadership from a range of different avenues, from individual, team and organisational sort of levels, because there's so much in it, as I said. We'd love to be able to engage with you on this topic. So if you have any specific leadership questions, or you have a favourite leadership theory, or you have a story of a leader that you've loved or hated, any of those kind of, most of us have those, any of those kind of stories, please share that story with us on the Being More Human page, and we'd love to be able to include some of the feedback that you're giving to us in the context of the conversation. And right now, I'm not really dressed for it, but even though I'm not really dressed for it, I have about half an hour between now and my first meeting for today. So have a guess what I'm about to do. So daily exercise, tip number 1. Tip number 2, planning and reflection. And if you can implement those things on a morning by morning basis, then you watch yourself go from being an average leader shooting up to being in the exceptional leadership. Thanks so much, and I enjoyed all of your comments, and again, if you have anything else to contribute, please pop it into the comments box. Have a great day. See ya.